Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Dimitri. So today I'm gonna show you an interview challenge. It's going to be for a coding interview. It's going to be kind of easy, but at the same time, it'll be nice to show you how you should approach to it. So what they want you to do is to create a list or an array or any type of data structure and store these values. So you have one country with one ID, and then you got the second country with a different ID. So all they want you to do is to create some sort of structure so you can store this data and then display this data. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a class which is going to be my model, so I can manage these properties better, right? So I'm going to create this country class because I'm talking about countries, and then I'm going to create two properties. So the first one is going to be my ID, and the second one is going to be my country, right? So I'm going to have my second property as a string, and then this is going to be name. This is going to be the name of my country. So this is a good way to approach the first step, because you're pretty much displaying this as a model. So this is going to be a model, so you're telling them that you know how to pretty much separate models and different functionalities. Okay, so if you put all of this code inside the static void main method, then it's going to get messy later. So that's the first step. The second step is, okay, this is a public class, so you need to access this class somehow and get some values related to the ID and the name, right? So you're going to create an object for now. Let's just create a country. C is equal to new country. And now I have access to my ID and my name properties here. So I'm going to assign these values that they gave me. So I'm going to say, okay, I want my ID to be equal to 100. And I want my country to be equal to United States. Perfect. So I have one record. I'm going to have another one which is going to be Canada. I'm going to call this C1, and I'm going to have a different ID, and I'm going to have a different name. So Canada. So this is pretty much the second step. So first step, I created my model. Then the second step is I created a couple of objects. I set up some records, and I'm ready to create a list so I can store these values and do something with those values. So that's the next step. So let's just create a list of type T, which means we're going to access the elements or the properties from this country class. So I'm going to create a list of type T, which is country. I'm not going to create a string or an integer here. I'm going to access the properties for this class. So I'm going to call this all values. That's going to be the name of my list. And then I'm going to say, okay, I want a new list of type country, and I need to add these two values. So in order to do that, I'm going to call my list, and I'm going to add these values. So I'm going to apply my add method, and then I'm going to call my object C. Okay, I added the USA for now. if I want to add Canada and all of the values, because I'm working with objects, not with a single string or a single integer. I'm working with the whole object. So I'm going to add my second one, which is C1, and this is going to be for Canada. So this is basically the third step. I created the list, I added the values, and the last step is going to be I'll have to figure out the way to print these values. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a for each loop, and I'm going to say, okay, for each variable, let's call it I, for each variable I in my list, okay, do something. So I want to do something. So I want to print all the values that are represented by this I. So, but I'm going to do it in a different way. So I'm going to open quotation marks, and I'm going to say ID is going to be equal to 0. And then my other property, which is name, is going to be equal to 1. So if I happen to have more properties here, then I'm going to say next property, and then number 2, and then 3, and then 4. But in this case, I made it easy. I just have ID and name. So outside these quotation marks, I'm going to type comma, and then I'm going to call my objects. So object 1, which is C, and then object 2, which is C1. All right, perfect. So the last thing that I'm going to do is, okay, let me just show you what's the error. Let's just run this real quick. So if I run this, I'm going to have ID and name, but I'm not going to have my real values. So let's just stop the application. Let's see what's going on. So since I'm working with this I, so this is what I have to actually print. So I have to type I, and then dot, and then actually get my ID, and then comma, and I'm going to have my second one, which is going to be I dot name. Okay, so now this is supposed to work. So I'm not calling the object C here straight up, because I created this for each, and I assign a different name to my variables. All right, so that was something I have to change, and I feel like everything is okay for now. So let's just display a message. These are the results. Okay, if I run this application, I'm going to have ID 100 for USA and 101 for Canada. Perfect. So if they ask you later to add a different value, so you could do just something like this, C2, and then 102, and name is going to be France, and then you're going to do the same here. So you're going to add a different value, which is C2, and that's going to work exactly in the same way. So I'm going to have a different country, which is France, which is going to have a different ID, and that's pretty much how it works. So I did it this way because they wanted to display this only 2 countries. Okay, so I probably would do it in a different way if they have a long list, but I feel like this is a good approach for now. So I hope you guys like the video, and I'll see you in the next video.